tearing out the fireplace, I realized that it's not going to be feasible to get this up and running. So for now, I'm going to block it off until it becomes an option in the future. I've used some acoustic sound insulation and just almost added like another wall to the separating wall, because it's just basically brickwork with plasterboard put on top of it. So it's not very insulating. So added in that sound insulation and then covered it up with some plasterboard and gave it a skim. Now the windows aren't that old. They were installed about 6 or 7 years ago. So it doesn't really make sense to replace them. But I don't like how they look. They're this horrible plastic brown colour. So I'm going to tape them up and I'm going to paint them. I used a plastic primer just to get the plastic all ready for paint. And then I used a matte black spray paint, just a rattle can that you'd buy in a car store. Gave that a few coats and then left it to dry. I removed the existing architrave because the previous homeowner had a dog and they'd chewed it all to bits, so I replaced those with something just simple. For a mantelpiece, I'm going to use this big railway sleeper. Now most people have these on the side, on the wall, looking like a lintel. Well, ours doesn't need to be structural or anything like that, so I'm going to have it as a floating shelf. This way I can put all my little trinkets on there and make use of the space a bit better. If you follow me on TikTok, you would have seen the plethora of comments that I got for installing a dado rail. The way that I got it level was I hammered in some nails either end and then used a spirit level, then mark it off, put in some extra nails, hang it on, and then boom, it'd all be nice and straight and level. Finishing off the framing to the media wall, added a little bit of extra insulation in there, and then I boarded it up. And yes, I used MDF for 2 reasons mainly. One, because it helps absorb sound. That's why all of your speaker boxes and stuff are made from MDF. But also, with media walls, they have all these little nooks and crannies. And if you use plaster, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be good at it. And I don't. I'm not a plasterer. I'm a fabricator welder who likes doing a bit of DIY. So I made it out of MDF. That way I could sand it all down and make it look good. I also made the soundbar speaker box out of MDF as well. And that's where the soundbar is going to live. It sits in there. Then I bolted on a TV bracket to the brickwork. I mean, I don't want this thing falling down in the middle of the night and scaring me. It allows the TV to be pulled out away from the wall. So if you do need to do any maintenance or plug anything in, or you get a new TV, you can install it. You don't have to go ripping anything out. And then I used a Wilko spirit level to make sure it was level. Oh, rest in peace, Wilkos. Sealed the MDF with some special MDF sealing paint. Not ceiling paint, sealing paint. It's like seals it. Because MDF is really porous and spongy. It'll absorb paint, so it needs to have a barrier down. Then I painted the ceiling. Rather than buy an expensive, special, telescopic ceiling painter roller thingy, I just stuck a broom handle on a normal roller, and it worked brilliantly. Started to paint the walls, and you can see the black underneath and the white on top, and I think it looks really good. Adding in some light fixtures and some Edison bulbs, just to add a healthy glow. With the wiring for the TV, I extended all of the cables down to a keystone that's going to fit inside the cupboard that's going to be on the side of the chimney breast. And that's so if you do need to plug anything in, you can just go in the cupboard and plug it in there, rather than pulling out the TV, having wires hanging down, or, you know, whatever. Under the fireplace, I've got a USB extension that goes to the other side, and that's so I can put some lights in there. The TV had a bit of a problem, so it's got this light bar on the bottom that receives the infrared from your TV remotes. Well, it's in the way, so I cut that off, put in a little extension for it, and then I'm going to house that inside the box for the soundbar. For the windowsill, I've cut it down so that it matches the height of the wall, so that it's all flush, and that's because I am going to put in a bay window seat, and you don't want that windowsill lip being in the way. Added some trim to the windows just to make them all look good and nice and neat and tidy. And I've got to say, the spray paint idea was great. It looks really good. It came up beautifully. Totally would recommend doing this if you don't need to replace your windows. These are the lights that I'm installing, just some coloured lights so you can choose the colour. And then I've also gone for some grow lights. Now, it's not because of what you think. This is so we can put some plants in there and they won't wither away and die from lack of photosynthesis because they're not in the sun. This little grow light has a timer in there and you can set it to like 6, 9 or 12 hours. And that's good because it'll come on and go off automatically. Because if I had to crawl in there every day to turn them on and off, the plants would die regardless. And then I added some insulation that goes under the laminate flooring. Now the laminate flooring that we chose was grey. Now I know what you're thinking, why did they pick grey? It's gross and disgusting. And I agree, it was cheap. We made a snap decision, it's what we could afford. And we thought, what's gonna go with the interior decoration? We've got white, we've got black. I wish that we went with something else, perhaps a colour that matched the other woodwork that I installed, because I think that would have looked way better. You know, hindsight's 2020. This is a light bar. I've shrank it down and then it's gonna live in here, just on top of the soundbar, just like that. This will allow us to still turn the TV on and off. The TV actually sits a little bit proud to its hole, and that's because I want the TV to actually be able to tilt forward a bit. When you're sat watching a TV that's flat against the wall, and if you're slightly looking up at it, you want it to tilt down so that it meets your eyes. And this was a problem because it sat too far out. So I then framed the TV in this wooden square framing, turned it into like a picture frame style. It looked really good, so I ran with it. Then I started making the cupboards that are either side of the chimney breast. Inside I put in some skirting board and stained it. I wanted the colour to all be the same, so I used the same stain on everything, and I didn't use varnish, I just oiled it all. I painted the dado rail white, and that's so it matched the skirting board and architrave, but I've seen a lot of people match the colour of the wall underneath, especially if they've got panelling. Now I don't have panelling, but some people have said I should have painted that black. I think I made the right choice with it being white so that it matches all the other wooden bits, but let me know what you think in the comments below. You can kind of see things coming together now, and with this bay window I'm going to put in some planks, as you can see me doing here. This is just where the seat's going to go, so they'll act as the backing of the seat, and of course they match all the same wood as the cupboards and the mantelpiece. I managed to find some aluminium black blinds that fit each one of my window panels perfectly. Starting on the cupboards now, made some doors, and then I'm adding a shelf unit to the top, a little mitered lip on the edge there just to hide everything and make it look a bit chunkier. Kind of like a farmhouse, I don't know, neo-gothic industrial look to it. I'm not really sure on the style, but I do like it, especially with the big brace hinges on the side. I think it looks really, really cool detailing, and the grain being all visible and whatnot from the stain looks cool as well. I'm glad that they fit perfectly. That adds a really nice touch to the room. The doors are on catches so that they don't swing too far in and they hold steady, because we don't want the ghosts rummaging through all our stuff in the middle of the night. In the fireplace I added this tray. This is just to make the edges look nice, and also when we do have plants in there, that they have a nice place to live. Things are coming together now that the cupboards are done. You can really see where I'm going with it a bit more now. The idea is coming to fruition. I do like that big TV taking up almost all of that chimney breast. Now I'm not just going to leave the blinds, I am going to have curtains as well. My partner had an old curtain rail from her previous house, and it had these geometric patterns on that were similar to the light fixing in the middle of the room on the main light, so we reused that. And then she also had these velvet curtains, so I stuck them up and they actually matched the floor, so I think that was quite a good decision. With the mantelpiece, it needs a little bit of detail into it, and I had these old button nails from an old sofa that I used to own, and I reused them on the mantle, and it just adds a little bit of extra detail to it. On the corners I'm adding these strap braces. I don't know what they're called, but they're on there and they look cool. Here we go. They also tie in really well with them hinges. Now for the soundbar, I'm actually making a cover look, and it matches the TV surround, so similar style to that, and it's got this speaker fabric. It's a mesh, so it looks really cool. It makes the whole thing look like one unit. Then for the curtains, I'm adding in some hooks and some curtain ties just to hold them in position, and of course that means you can style your curtains in different ways as well. Adding some decor that we had, mirror in the corner, and obviously some skulls knocking around. Got the YouTube 4K fireplace on the screen, and the place is looking really cozy. Add to that by shutting the curtains, and it sort of brings everything a bit closer. Plus, when I've got that bay window seat installed and you shut them curtains, you'll have a nice little reading nook. that you can hide away in. When you open the curtains and the blinds, light does flood the room, and it will still bounce around off the white ceiling and the white walls, because I was a little bit worried having so much black in there that it would look a bit dark and dingy. It doesn't look too much like a dungeon. I'm going to add some shelves either side of the chimney breast, but I'm going to do that in another video because they're going to have lights on and they're going to be all cool and funky, so I feel like they deserve a video of their own. Okay, so just a quick note about the soundbar cover. Because I've used this speaker fabric, it's basically the fabric that covers speakers, you would think that the light bar would no longer work because it works for infrared on the TV and for the soundbar itself, and it's all located behind that mesh fabric. However, it works fine, so that's a bonus because it was something I was concerned about. The Roku itself, the remote uses a bit of infrared because you can turn the TV on and off, but it also works on a different channel. I think it's maybe Bluetooth or something like that, because the Roku stick is a HDMI stick and it's usually located behind your TV. In my case though, it's in here. That's the wiring extension for all the cables for the TV. Let me know what you think of the living room renovation and the media wall build in the comments section below. Please don't forget to like the video. It really helps out, and share it with your friends and family. Also, I am building a workshop in my garden, a really big one. So make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss that. Thanks so much for watching this to the end. I am eternally grateful, and I'll catch you on the next one.